Glacier Peak is the volcano almost nobody is watching. The United States Geological Survey ranks it one of the 18 most dangerous volcanoes in the country. It hides behind ridgelines in the North Cascades. Most days, even from the towns directly downstream, you cannot see it at all. The mountain is invisible. The threat is not. In the last 15,000 years, this volcano has produced eruptions 5 times the size of Mount St. Helens. Its mudflows have reached the Pacific, and the entire federal early warning system on it consists of one seismometer that was installed in 2001, one sensor, watching a mountain that has buried this valley to the sea before. Geologists have a word for what Glacier Peak does. They speak it carefully, Lahar, a volcanic mudflow. Pyroclastic flows mixed with melted glacier ice and pulverized rock moving at highway speed down a river valley. Glacier Peak doesn't just produce them, it produces some of the largest in the continental United States. About 13,000 years ago, in one of the largest Cascades eruptions since the end of the last ice age, this volcano ejected approximately 5 times as much rock as the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption. The Lahars from that event ran down the Whitechuck, Seattle, Sauk, and Skagit valleys and reached the sea. Glacier Peak sits in Snohomish County, Washington. 10,551 feet of stratovolcano cloaked in roughly a dozen named glaciers. The U.S. Geological Survey classifies it as very high threat, alongside Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, and Mount Baker. The danger of this mountain has nothing to do with what most people picture when they think of a volcano. The 2018 USGS multi-volcano Lahar exposure assessment for Washington state counted, across all 5 active volcanoes in the state, 191,555 residents inside Lahar hazard zones, 108,719 employees, 354 dependent care facilities, places where the people inside would need help to evacuate. Follow the geography. The towns of Darrington, Rockport, Concrete, Sedro-Woolley, Burlington, Mount Vernon, and LaConner all sit in the Sauk and Skagit River valleys on or directly downstream of past Glacier Peak Lahar deposits. Add Arlington, Stanwood, and Lyman to that list. Darrington alone, about 1,400 people, sits roughly 20 air miles from the summit. Now stack the numbers. Between 5,000 and 7,000 years ago, dome-building eruptions produced repeated mudflows that also extended to Puget Sound. Within the past 2,000 years, Lahars have run the entire length of the Whitechuck River. The most recent eruption was approximately 1,100 years ago. Fumarolic activity ramped up dramatically for several years, starting in 1975. 6 separate eruptive episodes since the end of the last ice age. Numerous lahars and floods over the past 14,000 years. The 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption killed 57 people, destroyed hundreds of homes, wiped out 47 bridges and 185 miles of highway. Glacier Peak's magma chemistry is the same as St. Helens, dacitic, the kind that erupts explosively, and Glacier Peak erupts more frequently. Now look at what is watching the mountain. The USGS Cascades Volcano Observatory Operations Summary, published November 2023 under the title Earthquake Monitoring at Glacier Peak, describes the situation in one sentence. The Pacific Northwest Seismic Network and CVO monitor seismicity at Glacier Peak via a single station. Station GPW, installed September 2001. Sitting roughly 2 kilometers from the summit. By 2018, federal documents noted that the seismometer was running on backup power and expected to fail soon if it doesn't get new batteries. Mount Rainier has roughly 20 seismic stations. Mount St. Helens has roughly 20. Glacier Peak has 1. Tony Gibbons of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network gave reporters a comparison that fits inside one sentence. What's currently on Glacier Peak is kind of like a black and white TV. The proposed upgrades would put a 4K TV up there. The monitoring upgrade has been on a 13-year clock. In 2011, the National Volcano Early Warning System Assessment formally identified Glacier Peak as needing additional stations. By 2018, Seth Moran, scientist in charge of the USGS Cascades Volcano Observatory, was confirming publicly that the project was still in the permitting phase. In July 2022, the Forest Service issued a final decision approving the installation. 4 new monitors, 1 upgrade to GPW. Estimated cost, about $170,000. October 2024, FOX. 13 SRs, Seattle reported that the installation had been delayed again. The named obstacles were specific: vendor problems with the GPS hardware. Bedrock at proposed sites turned out to be too soft to support the equipment. Seismic crews diverted to Mount Adams, where unusual earthquake swarms had begun in September 2024. And the helicopter availability that the entire project depends on was constrained by wildfire season, because the same Forest Service helicopters that fly equipment into wilderness sites are also the ones fighting fires across the state. Each new monitoring station weighs about 1,900 pounds, including 10 70-pound batteries that need to be replaced every 3 to 5 years. There's no realistic way to backpack the equipment in. 2 formal objections came in from Wilderness Watch in Montana and the North Cascades Conservation Council, both opposing the use of helicopters in a designated wilderness area, where the Wilderness Act restricts mechanized equipment. The same wilderness designation that has kept Glacier Peak unbuilt for half a century is also the structural reason the upgrade requires multiple federal sign-offs to proceed at all. Kevin Ash, a Darrington Town councilman, has lived through the discussion. They keep doing this every 4 or 5 years, warning they need monitors. I decided I'm going to see this through and get those monitors up there. After the 2014 Oso landslide killed 43 people in the same county, where there was no immediate warning, Ash became more focused on natural hazard preparedness. The last time a Washington volcano with this magma chemistry woke up, the warning signs were visible for 2 months before the eruption, and the U.S. Geological Survey was watching with the most monitoring it had ever placed on a single volcano. March 16, 1980. A magnitude 4.2 earthquake under Mount St. Helens marked the start of the seismic swarm. Within a week, earthquake counts were climbing past 100 per day. By March 27th, the first phreatic explosion punched through the summit ice cap. In April, a bulge began growing on the north flank, expanding outward at roughly 5 feet per day. May 18, 1980, 8:32 in the morning. The north flank failed. The largest debris avalanche in recorded history. A lateral blast that flattened forests for miles. A column of ash rising 13 miles into the atmosphere, 57 people dead. The Toutle River Valley filled with hot mud and timber to depths of more than 600 feet. Even with 2 months of warning, even with the most monitoring the United States had ever placed on a single American volcano, the eruption killed 57 people, many of them inside the established hazard zone. St. Helens told the U.S. Geological Survey what was coming. It still wasn't enough. Glacier Peak isn't telling them anything yet, because there's nothing on it that can listen. Let the numbers sit with you. 1 seismometer on a very high-threat volcano, 20 on Mount Rainier, 20 on Mount St. Helens. 6 eruptive episodes since the last ice age. The most recent eruption, approximately 1,100 years ago. The first warning in 2011. The Forest Service approval in 2022. The installation still pending. 7 towns in the inundation zone. Tens of thousands of acres of farmland in the Skagit Valley. 1 instrument watching for the next move. So ask yourself 3 things. If Glacier Peak has erupted at least 6 times in the last 15,000 years, and Lahars from those eruptions have reached Puget Sound, what exactly are we waiting to see? If the federal monitoring upgrade was identified as necessary in 2011, approved in 2022, and still not installed by late 2024, how does the system close that gap before the volcano does? And if the only continuous instrument on a very high-threat volcano is one aging seismometer, who exactly is watching? Tonight, station GPW is still transmitting. The Lahar deposits underneath Darrington are still there. So is Darrington. The dacitic magma chamber under the summit is still there. The roughly dozen glaciers on the upper flanks are still flexing against rock that has held lava domes for thousands of years. The Lahar isn't waiting for a budget vote. It has done this before, and it will do it again.